Imagine this scenario for a second. You wake up on a Tuesday morning, stretch, shuffle into the kitchen.
Best part of the day, honestly.
Right, you start brewing your coffee.
Yeah.
But while you were completely unconscious, an entire team of your employees was wide awake.
Just grinding away in the background.
Exactly. They were endlessly scrolling the internet, identifying emerging cultural trends, and then brainstorming product ideas based on those trends.
Wow.
Yeah, and executing the graphic design, setting the retail prices, and finally, stocking the digital shelves of your store.
That is wild.
By the time you take that first sip of coffee, your business has launched a dozen new products tailored to a meme that literally didn't exist 24 hours ago.
I mean, it sounds like the operations of a massive, multinational fast fashion conglomerate, right?
That's totally.
Like an absolute army of trend forecasters and designers working around the clock in different time zones.
It does sound like that, but it's actually a reality built by one person running from a laptop.
Okay.
Welcome to today's Deep Dive. We are looking at a truly fascinating Substack post from May of 2026.
Yeah, written by a technologist who goes by the name Shish.
Right, and the post is titled, "I Let Agents Run a Retail Store. Here is what happened."
It's such a great read.
It really is. But our mission today isn't just to talk about a quirky automated t-shirt shop. We're using this specific source to explore a fundamental shift in how you and I will interact with technology.
Which is a huge deal.
It is. We are crossing the threshold from an era where we, manually build software line by line to an era where we simply manage autonomous digital workers.
Yeah, to really grasp the magnitude of the retail store itself, we have to understand the technological tectonic shift that the author identifies right at the beginning.
Right, the execution barrier.
Exactly. They point out something profound about the changing nature of innovation. For most of the history of computing, turning a software idea into reality required months of grueling engineering work.
Just to see if the idea was even viable.
Yes. You had to provision servers, write boilerplate code, set up databases, just build all this infrastructure to test a basic concept.
The creative and strategic thinking were just, held entirely hostage by the technical execution.
Completely.
I was thinking about how to visualize this dynamic for the listener. It used to be that having a great idea was like being a movie director who had to personally build all the cameras.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, like you had to grind the glass for the lenses and invent the film stock from scratch before you could even yell action.
Sounds exhausting.
Right. But now the cameras just build themselves.
What's fascinating here is that the primary challenge is no longer how to build.
Wait, really? Then what is it?
Well, because of the rise of agentic AI, economics of building have fundamentally flipped. Getting a concept to work on a technical level is no longer the primary hurdle.
Okay.
The primary challenge is deciding what is genuinely worth building in the first place. The friction has moved entirely from the execution phase to the ideation and strategy phase.
So deciding what movie to make, not how to build the camera.
Exactly. And the author, Shish, wanted to test this theory personally. They didn't want to just write a theoretical think piece.
Right. They wanted to build a functioning business to prove it.
Yeah.
And for the underlying platform, the orchestration layer, they used a tool called GitHub Copilot CLI. The way they describe the workflow here is just a massive departure from traditional programming.
Oh, absolutely.
Instead of opening a text editor and writing Python or JavaScript, you open a command line interface and just give the AI plain language goals.
Like typing in, create a script that scrapes this website and formats the data into a spreadsheet.
Right. And then the agentic part is what happens next. It doesn't just spit out a block of code and say, good luck.
No, it writes the code, attempts to execute it, and then evaluates the result.
Which is mind-blowing.
Yeah, if the code throws an error, the AI reads its own error log, reasons about why it failed, rewrites the code to fix the bug, and runs it again.
It's essentially debugging itself.
Exactly. It engages in a continuous, autonomous loop of trial and error until the plain language goal is met.
And I should note, the specific software brand being used here is secondary. The author used GitHub Copilot CLI, but you could run this exact same workflow using Claude Code, Cursor, or, any of the newer agentic development environments.
Yeah, the tool itself doesn't strictly matter.
Right. The revolution is the workflow itself. You define a clear purpose, wire the agents together, and just let the environment handle the mechanical keystrokes.
Which brings us to the actual experiment the author designed to test this new reality. They decided to build a fully automated mean t-shirt marketplace on a platform called Redbubble.
Redbubble, yeah. The logic behind choosing this specific business model is incredibly solid.
Because pop culture moves at lightning speed.
Exactly. There is a tiny, highly lucrative window between when a piece of Gen Z slang or an internet meme starts trending and when the broader corporate market catches up to monetize it.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if you can close that gap automatically, if you can source a fleeting cultural trend and get a physical product in front of buyers in a matter of hours,
Instead of the weeks it usually takes a traditional supply chain.
right, then you have a massive retail advantage. T-shirts are a simple, well-defined creative surface.
And by using Redbubble, the author outsourced all the physical logistics.
Yeah, Redbubble handles the blank shirts, the printing, the shipping to the customer, and the returns.
So it isolated the experiment perfectly. The author only had to worry about the upstream process, right? Could AI agents autonomously handle the creative and operational pipeline from discovering a trend to publishing a live product listing?
And they did it by structuring this pipeline using what they call the architecture of three.
Okay, what is the architecture of three?
It's a specialized division of labor utilizing three distinct AI agents, each with a very specific role. Agent number one is called the Scout.
The Scout.
Yeah, this agent runs on the Claude model, and its sole purpose is to monitor the internet for things gaining rapid traction, memes, slogans, cultural moments.
I found myself immediately skeptical of the Scout when I first read the source, honestly.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Well, the internet is a fire hose of viral garbage.
That is very true.
Right, like something might be trending on social media simply because it's controversial or offensive, which doesn't mean anyone actually wants to wear it on a t-shirt.
No, definitely not.
So I just assumed an AI scraping for high-volume keywords would spit out absolute, unwearable nonsense.
Well, the author anticipated that exact problem, which is why the Scout is not just running a basic search query for what is trending.
Oh, okay.
This task requires qualitative judgment. And that's where a large language model excels compared to an old-school scraping script.
So it's actually evaluating the context.
Exactly. The Scout evaluates context. It differentiates between what is genuinely resonating as a cultural moment and what is merely loud noise.
That's fascinating.
Furthermore, it assesses the portability of that content. Like, does it have the right tone, humor, or aesthetic to be wearable?
So it's essentially performing the role of a human creative director.
Precisely. It evaluates the emotional register of a trend and then distills that down into a highly structured creative brief.
It doesn't just pass along a raw link to a viral post.
No, it formulates a structured document detailing the core concept, the specific target demographic, the intended vibe, and concrete visual suggestions for how to represent it.
That is so thorough. But a text document detailing a trend doesn't give you a physical product to sell, right? The system has to cross the gap from a conceptual idea to a visual asset.
Which introduces agent number two, the artist.
Ah, the artist.
Yeah, this agent runs on OpenAI's image generation model. It ingests that highly structured brief from the Scout and generates the actual artwork for the t-shirt.
Though the source notes that setting up the artist wasn't just a plug-and-play situation. You can't just ask an image model for a t-shirt design and expect a good result.
Definitely not. It required heavy prompt engineering.
Right, because if you leave an image model to its own devices, it tends to default to that hyper-detailed, slightly surreal aesthetic with complex lighting and shading.
Oh yeah, the classic AI-generated mush look.
Exactly. And that aesthetic looks terrible when printed on cotton fabric.
Yeah, for a physical t-shirt, the design needs clean lines, strong contrast, a limited color palette, and, visual confidence.
So the author had to heavily tune the system prompts to constrain the AI, forcing it to produce artwork that felt deliberately designed, almost like flat vector art.
Right. The artist isn't just making a pretty picture. It is engineered to produce a production-ready retail asset that actually adheres to the constraints of physical manufacturing.
Okay, so we have the trend from the Scout, the art from the artist. What happens next?
Once the artwork is generated and formatted, the pipeline hands the file over to agent number three.
The publisher.
Yes, the publisher. And this is where the technical mechanics get truly impressive. The publisher is a combination of the Claude model and a browser automation framework called Playwright.
Now, Playwright is typically used by developers to write automated tests for their websites, right?
Exactly. But here, it's being used as the hands and eyes of the AI. The publisher takes the finished artwork and literally navigates the live Redbubble website.
Which is wild because operating a live consumer-facing website is the most operationally complex step in the entire pipeline.
Oh, absolutely. Redbubble is not providing some clean, sanitized API for the AI to plug into. The publisher has to navigate the messy human web.
Web pages are highly variable. You have unexpected pop-ups, slight layout changes, unpredictable load times.
But the way they combine the tools to solve this is brilliant. Playwright allows the agent to interact with the web interface, moving the mouse, clicking, typing exactly like a human user would.
And Claude acts as the brain driving those actions?
Yes. Claude interprets the state of the page. It actually reads the DOM tree, the underlying structural HTML code of the website.
Right.
It maps the visual coordinates of the elements, identifies the specific upload button, and tells Playwright to execute a click at those exact coordinates.
And then it fills in the title, writes the SEO tags based on the scout's brief, sets the pricing markup, and finally publishes the listing.
So you end up with this invisible, perfectly automated three-agent assembly line. The scout does the market research, the artist does the graphic design, and the publisher handles the data entry and logistics.
Hearing that workflow laid out, it sounds like human beings are 100% obsolete in this entire operation.
It really does seem that way. The system appears entirely autonomous
Right.
until it hits a very intentional brick wall.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
There is a one human moment required to make this entire architecture of three function.
Because despite all of this sci-fi level autonomy, the AI cannot log itself into the Redbubble platform.
No, it can't. Modern consumer websites are heavily fortified against bot traffic.
Right. They employ CAPI-CHAs, two-factor authentication, and behavioral analysis just to keep automated scripts out of their systems.
So the publisher agent possesses the capability to navigate the site, upload files, write tags, and hit publish.
But it fundamentally cannot authenticate its own session to begin the work.
Exactly. A human being, in this case, the author has to manually sit down at the laptop, open the browser, and log into the Redbubble account.
You type in the password, you click the pictures of the traffic lights to prove to the CAPI-TCJ that you aren't a robot.
Yep.
And once you are authenticated, you step back. You hand the active session over to the publisher agent, and it takes the wheel for the rest of the process.
And that entire manual intervention takes exactly 30 seconds.
30 seconds. It is very easy to look at that manual login requirement and declare the experiment a failure of automation.
Oh, for sure. Critics might say the system isn't truly autonomous if a human still has to babysit the login screen.
But the author offers a profound reframing of that friction point. Designing a system that requires a strategic human handoff is not a failure.
No, it's a highly realistic, sensible architecture for the modern web.
We can define that 30-second login as operational friction. And if you're running a retail business and assuming 30 seconds of operational friction unlocks a massive, complex, automated workflow.
A workflow that generates and publishes dozens of revenue-generating products while you sleep.
Right. That is not a flaw in the system. That is incredible leverage. The goal of agentic AI isn't to achieve an impossible 100% frictionless utopia with zero humans involved.
No, the goal is placing the right human at the exact right moment.
You don't need a human mind wasting away copying and pasting SEO descriptions. You just need a human to turn the key in the ignition.
You design your automated pipelines around those predictable friction points. You accept the KPTCHA as a reality of the landscape, build a human bridge over it, and automate everything downstream.
It's so smart, and seeing this theoretical architecture broken down is one thing, but the author actually unleashed this system onto the live internet.
They really did.
The results are sitting on a real Redbubble storefront right now. The author included a link in their post's appendix, and the store is called Peacefrog SE.
Yeah, and at the time the post was published, it has 16 live designs spanning clothing, phone cases, and accessories.
Every single one of those designs is a direct reflection of whatever cultural undercurrent the scout agent detected at the precise moment the pipeline executed.
No human being curated the trend list.
No.
And no human being drafted a brief for a designer.
The resulting products are incredibly specific to fleeting internet culture. There are shirts titled "Delulu is the Solulo,"
Oh, my God.
shirts that say "Ate and left no crumbs," and a tech-focused design that says "Will prompt for coffee."
That's actually pretty funny.
Right. The AI perfectly captured that hyper-niche, slightly absurd blend of Gen Z slang and tech industry humor, and it did it continuously without human direction.
And the cadence of the output is the most important metric here. The Peacefrog ZA style is not a static catalog of products.
It's a living, breathing reflection of cultural momentum, constantly updated by machines sensing the mood of the internet. So, what does this all mean? If you are listening to this, you might be thinking that a storefront full of slang t-shirts is a fun novelty, but perhaps not relevant to your daily life or your industry.
Right. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the implications of this one-person experiment for massive global retailers and truly any organization trying to move an idea into the physical world are staggering.
Staggering. What are the main takeaways for the broader business landscape?
Well, there are three concrete deductions we can draw from this. The first is a radical shift in cultural agility at scale.
Cultural agility.
Yeah. For decades, a persistent challenge in retail has been the supply chain lag. There's a massive gap between a cultural moment happening and a physical product becoming available to buy.
Because trend cycles today are viciously fast.
Exactly. By the time a traditional retailer spots a trend, assigns it to a design team, approves the artwork, and gets it manufactured and on shelves.
The culture has moved on, the trend is already dead.
But with an agentic pipeline, like the architecture of three, that lag shrinks from weeks or months down to hours.
A retailer using the system is engaging in continuous sensing, generating, and publishing. The gap between an idea forming on social media and a product being available for purchase is practically eliminated.
It evolves past fast fashion into instant fashion.
Instant fashion. Wow. Okay, what's the second implication?
The second major implication is the plummeting cost of experimentation. Historically, if a retail brand wanted to test a speculative project, perhaps dynamically rewriting all their product descriptions based on the weather in the user's zip code.
Oh, yeah, or creating highly localized marketing content.
Exactly. They had to commit real engineering resources. They had to pull developers off core projects to build the infrastructure,
It was expensive to even try an idea.
which meant companies were inherently risk-averse. But now, an individual employee can use plain language to build an automated pipeline in a fraction of the time, with zero dedicated engineering teams.
And when the cost of trying something new drops to near zero, it completely changes the corporate conversation around risk.
You can afford to deploy 100 strange, highly speculative ideas because the cost of failure is practically nothing.
That makes total sense. And the third takeaway.
The third takeaway addresses the anxiety around where human creativity fits into this highly automated future.
Because it does sound a bit scary, honestly.
It does. But the humans aren't gone. Their energy has simply shifted upstream. We are no longer wasting human potential on the operational friction of data entry or moving files between folders.
Right. Humans are designing the pipeline architectures.
Exactly. We are setting the parameters of the Scout agent, tuning the artist's prompts, and defining what a good outcome looks like.
We handle the strategic thinking, and the agents execute the massive volume of work required to realize that strategy.
The system doesn't replace the need for creative strategy. It just removes the mechanical friction that slows that strategy down.
You could take this exact same three-agent architecture and apply it to generating personalized email promotions for tens of thousands of different customer segments.
Easily. The t-shirt store is simply the most visible, tangible way to see the architecture proving itself in the real world.
The author ends their post with a very direct, challenging question for the reader. What would you build if the mechanics were taken care of?
And it is no longer a hypothetical thought experiment. It is the operational reality we are living in right now.
This deep dive proves that the old rules of building no longer apply. You, the listener, do not need a massive multi-year roadmap.
No, you don't.
You don't need a sprawling team of developers to build something incredibly complex. You just need a specific problem to solve, a clear understanding of what a successful outcome looks like, and the curiosity to wire a few agents together.
The underlying mechanics are handled. It is an incredibly empowering realization for anyone who has ever felt blocked by their lack of technical expertise.
It is empowering, but it also leads to a deeper, slightly more provocative question to leave you with today.
Let's hear it.
Let's assume the operational friction to bring any idea into the real world truly does drop to absolute zero. Anyone, anywhere, can instantly manifest a product, a piece of software, or a marketing campaign with an AI agent.
Okay.
In a world characterized by a sheer, unrelenting hyperabundance of new ideas and instantly generated products, does the value of generating an idea start to plummet?
Oh, wow. That is the ultimate paradox of zero-friction creation, right? When everyone possesses the capability to make anything instantly, the market becomes infinitely flooded.
Exactly. So perhaps the most valuable human skill of the future won't be brainstorming or generating new ideas at all.
It will be the rigorous, ruthless curation of them.
Yes. Knowing exactly what not to build might become your biggest competitive advantage because tomorrow morning, when you wake up, stretch, and go to the kitchen to make your coffee,
Your automated team will have already generated and stocked your shelves with 100 brand new concepts.
your job won't be to help them build. Your job will be deciding which of those 100 concepts is actually worth keeping.